So when we talk about policies, first of all, for the layman out there, what is a policy? Let's start there and then go into policies that can help businesses thrive, especially within the region where we are.
Yeah, the easiest way I can describe that to a layman is that policies are government's blueprints with which they run, the state, the economy, the country, the nation. So it's basically guidelines set out by government to drive, growth and leadership, basically. Yes. And so policies can be in the area of business, in the area of medicine,
health, tourism,
defense, So
security,
it's basically a blueprint with which the government runs the state. Yes.
All right. Because we are focused on business, let's take a look at what's been happening. You've been in Nigeria for a while. You move around, but of course you do a whole lot around here.
Yeah.
What do you think has been guiding the way we enact policies in the country so far?
Can I be honest with you?
You know how to say it just the way you feel and as it is. Yes, I am a bit scared, but go ahead, please.
You want me to be diplomatic or you want me to be honest?
Be honest. Let's hear you.
Okay. In Nigeria, a lot of our policies are not real policies. A lot of our policies are coerced, right? You have individuals or groups of individuals who have certain interests, and then they lobby government officials to implement policies that suit them and their activities, right? And that is why a lot of our policies aren't designed to help the people who are directly supposed to benefit from these policies. I'll give you an example. NAFDAC is supposed to be the agency that certifies food and cosmetics, right? Now, if you were thinking about the economy and economic growth, then you find a way to simplify the process and encourage more people to go into food and cosmetics production to grow GDP. But for any new entrants to get into the food and cosmetics sector, it's totally impossible. The requirements are impossible. Why is that? The early players in those sectors have lobbied government officials in a very corrupt way by giving them some kind of financial inducement to come up with policies that discourage more people from entering into the sector so that they can enjoy monopoly forever. And so that's why NAFDAC isn't working. That's why we're not finding new people enter into the sector. And that's why we're also not creating enough jobs. So I could say the same thing in different other sectors, but I decided to give you NAFDAC as an example.
By the way, that's a sector you're playing in.
Absolutely.
As MD of DEFCON Foods and Cosmetics. So
right.
you're coming from an inside experience.
That's right.
First-hand experience of what it takes to get
That's right.
on board this particular
That's right. So it's the same thing in education. A lot of times
we've seen it in health. We've seen it
absolutely. And now the other problem is that the people who are employed to design these policies are almost always round pegs in square holes, right? Now it's like making somebody who's a lawyer minister of sports. What does he know about sports? Right? So a lot of times the civil servants who make policies that control what we do as business people or as educational practitioners or whatever it is are almost always the wrong people because of nepotism. These people are employed because they have a friend in high places. Maybe they're a friend or family to the president, or they know a governor or a minister somewhere, or they were part of the people that supported the ruling party to get into office. And then to settle them, you just give them positions anywhere. This is why Nigeria isn't working, because people designing these policies don't know what they're doing, right? So what we need to see going forward is taking the right people and putting them in the right positions. Imagine, would you take somebody who's an engineer and make them a CMD in a hospital? You wouldn't do that. Would you take somebody who studied food and nutrition and make them a manager in a bank? You wouldn't do that. The bank will collapse. That hospital will be run down.
So you just like you said, square pegs and square holes is what we need. And then expertise comes into play.
Absolutely.
Expertise should come into play.
Absolutely. So we've had a lot of meetings, events where NAFDAC was there, Standard Organization was there. I told them directly, you guys don't know what you're doing. You're killing businesses. You're killing businesses in Nigeria because you don't understand what it takes to run a business. You've never run a business. You came straight out of school and somebody you know put you here, gave you this job. And so you're messing up businesses. They don't know what the business community suffers in Nigeria. They don't know the importance of the business community in any country. The SME grows the economy in any economy. And so you must support the SME, not just with policies, but with funding, but with oversight functions, top-notch oversight functions, to ensure that the business community survives. Because if the business community survives, then they can employ more labor. The more labor they employ, the more people pay taxes. And the more taxes are paid, the more GDP grows. But they don't understand these basic principles. And so we need to see round pegs in round holes and square pegs in square holes if Nigeria must move forward.
All right. I mean, that's saying it, in a way that makes sense, because sometimes it's not rocket science.
It's
just
absolutely.
Doing the right things can make the whole, the difference can change a whole lot. Absolutely. Now, when it comes to business, let's say we have square pegs now in square holes. What should we be looking at as policies to help them thrive?
Okay, for example, I come back to NAFDAC again. Okay. What I expect NAFDAC to do is simplify the process, right? Safety is important. I understand that. Now, but you will not come up with policies. If you want to set up a small factory right now where you manufacture, say, something as simple as chin-chin. Okay. Listen, the least of it requirements they will give you at NAFDAC will make you give up on the project. I had suffered the same. Many Nigerians are suffering this. Nigerians are very creative people, right? In China, it's not the same. Ensure that you have a way to oversight these sectors and make sure they produce safe food. That's all you need to do, but simplify the entry process so that more people can get in there and play, so that we can create enjoyment. So
give us an example of the simplicity you're looking at now.
Okay, for example, somebody wants to set up a factory. You're telling them to go and rent this, rent that, get this equipment, get stainless equipment and all of that, There are a number of things on the list that I won't go into now, so on account of time, that aren't just necessary. You just need to look at that list and ask yourself, what is on this list that is required for this person to start basically and ensure safety? If there are 5 of them, take those 5 out. Now, every other thing that is not really important to the setting up of this business and running it safely, take it out of there. I guarantee you, look at any of, not that requirement right now, you find a whole lot of things on the list that aren't just necessary for the setting up of these businesses. But I've put there to ensure that more people can't go in.
There was something you said about the people who make these policies. They've never run a business. Yeah. Do they really need to run a business before they can understand what business people go through?
I think you need to. Let me tell you why you need to. Okay. Somebody goes into medical school, right? And then graduates. Why do they have to go for what we call a house job before they become real professionals? Okay. It's to acquire some level of experience. Now, let me tell you what happens overseas. You're an engineer, right? And while you're studying, there is an opportunity for you to go and work in a factory that deals with your area of study so that you can acquire some level of experience. So you're not just learning theories. So that when you graduate and you're made a certificate, made a professional by the certificate you're given, you won't just think theories. You know practical. You've encountered practical situations where you had to use your knowledge to solve practical problems. And so when you come out, you're an all-rounded professional prepared for the job that you're going to do. So if you are going to come and become Minister of Commerce and Industry or whatever it is, and you've never run a business, what do you know? All you know is theory. You never run a business. You've never encountered real practical problems in running of a business. And so when you make policies that don't connect, because you don't feel what we feel. You don't know what businesses feel. You don't know what companies suffer. For example, funding is not available. It's a major problem in Nigeria for businesses. And so the banks want you to get a whole number of things. Go and get a landed property with a CFO. Go and get a signature from 2. In present day Nigeria, nobody would do that for you. But there are other ways that you can do these things and make sure that businesses have access to funding. And then the funds have to be structured in a way that they are useful to the businesses. But then you see that certain policies are put in place by people who have never encountered real problems in business, and they just put it there, oh, I'm a civil servant, I'm just signing policies, and we're coming up with policies and approving them.
Another thing they can do is probably get the business community involved when drawing up these policies.
Absolutely.
And get their input and feedback in this.
Absolutely.
Because it's a win-win situation, just like you said.
Yeah.
If more businesses survive, more jobs can be created,
yes.
more people can be employed, and at the end of the day, more revenue in the area of tax generation goes to the government.
I met you at the last After Africa Continental Free Trade Area event in Enugu.
Yeah.
Throughout the process of drawing that in a policy document, I was involved. A lot of people from the business community in different parts of Nigeria were brought together to help develop this policy document. Now, when it came to the point of validating it, we were also brought together to go and validate. We went to Lagos to do that. And that was excellent, because you're drawing a set of policies or laws that are going to affect our activities. It's only wise that you bring us in to help develop that document. And so this is what I need to see in different sectors. When policies are being drawn, ask yourself who are going to be the players that these policies are going to affect. Bring them together, hear from them, let them contribute to that document. At the end of the day, based on their experiences, you can draw up a policy that's functional.
All right.